So they can be as creative as they want, and we do want to have a varied program. When kids come in right after school, they may have a little time for recreation, but the main thing is that they want to help the kids with their homework. Before we go into the computer lab, before we start playing basketball, but probably within the first hour, it probably varies from each club location. Actually, a lot of our executive directors have relationships with the local schools where local schools may call and say, Johnny needs help with math.
Right.
So the club will specifically work with Johnny on math. And actually, when I was last week when I was in Hemingway, I met with a parent, and she just raved about the fact that she knew when she got off of work that her son was going to have his homework done. And that
is tremendous.
Yeah.
You're going to have a flood of calls to the local Boys and Girls Clubs if that's the case, and I know it is.
Right.
Because Don talked about that, the excitement of, and there are a number of folks working in his operation, obviously volunteering a lot of man hours, person hours to be in there to support, but highlighting the real needs. Let's talk a little bit about how the Boys and Girls Clubs are funded. Where do the dollars come from? Are there ever needs for donations or volunteer opportunities?
There's definitely a need at probably every Boys and Girls Club around the country, as far as we definitely need volunteers to come in. A lot of our clubs have musicians come in and teach how to play guitar.
Right.
Or I know we've had a couple of good steel band performances by club members, and
really?
I mean, wonderful. So we need volunteers to help with those kind of specialties, plus volunteers are also tutors in the afternoon.
Good.
So we have a lot of good partnerships with corporations that their employees come in and help with that.
That's great.
Financially, every Boys and Girls Club needs financial support, and it is supported by the community.
It is, yes.
Some Boys and Girls Club gets support from United Way. Some get from special events.
Sure.
And also one of the areas is individual gifts.
Mm-hmm.
As you probably see across the country, every year they give out percentages of giving by people, or what people give to, whether it's health, whether it's after-school programs, social services. But over 85% of dollars to nonprofits come from individuals.
Is that right?
I mean, that's significant.
85%.
Yes,
Wow.
and every year it's been about 85, 86%. So we always say, you have to ask that individual for money. But with Boys and Girls Club, like any other nonprofit, we want them to come in and see our people at the club. Once you go into a Boys and Girls Club and see the varied activities that are going on, I can't speak for the club here, but a lot of clubs statistically can say to the community, this is how many people got from grade B to A.
Right.
And I know South Carolina, I think their dropout rate is over 50% of people that don't finish high school. Mm-hmm. So a Boys and Girls Club, all your local Boys and Girls Clubs can say, if you went to a Boys and Girls Club, this is how many of our kids have gone on to college. And actually, a lot of our clubs offer scholarships.
Is that right? Tremendous.
So a lot of individuals, sometimes that's something that somebody's interested in sponsoring. Mm-hmm. One of our best programs is Youth of the Month.
Youth of the Month.
Youth of the Month.
Good, sure.
Almost all of our clubs do Youth of the Year competitions.
Sure.
So it starts out Youth of the Month, and then at the end of the year, the club has a competition to see who's the Youth of the Year for that organization.
Great. Good idea. Yeah.
You may have a Youth of the Year from all the sites, and then they have to compete to represent that organization.
Right.
And then you go on to compete to be Youth of the State of South Carolina.
Sure, yeah.
So actually we had it in Greenville this year in March.
Yes.
And they come across, those other 19 organizations come together with their Youth of the Year, and the age group is...
I haven't heard anything about that. That's wonderful. That's something we love to promote. I hope you'll make sure to let Don and Pete and your person Mike there in Hemingway to let us know about that. We'd love to highlight those kids. That's tremendous.
Oh, they're wonderful, because the Youth of the Month program is specifically when you get to that stage. You can have Youth of the Month when different age groups, but it's 14 to 18 years old.
Good.
And I just admire first of all, a lot of times those 19 kids never left Hemingway to go to Greenville.
Right.
So it's their first time out of their town, and they're meeting other club members, which most people, probably with any organization, you're thinking of this is Myrtle Beach, this is Conway. So we do a lot of activities. In March, we took a tour of Furman University.
Great, sure.
A lot of times we try to get on the legislative floor so that they can meet the governor. So we've been really very lucky on that.
That's wonderful.
So it is one of our best programs that I believe for, I should know this, but last year the State Youth of the Year for South Carolina was from Florence.
Oh, good, in our viewing area.
Yes.
That's wonderful.
Yes.
Absolutely. Very important. I wish I'd known that before we started. And so you're over the locations in Florence, or you're a liaison for the locations there in Florence
yes,
as well?
Yes,
oh,
PD area.
That's great. That's great.
And this year the young lady was out of the Low Country, out of a Hilton Head unit.
Good.
So what happens is then in June we bring all of our 10 Youth of the Years from all of our southeast states to Atlanta, and they compete to be Regional Youth of the Year.
Very nice,
And,
yes.
I don't know what I did in high school, but these kids, first of all, for the state youth, for the Regional Youth of the Year, all 10 are interviewed individually by 10 judges. So they go through the interview process one-on-one, and then all 10 get up during the luncheon where there's donors, where there's people from Boys and Girls Clubs of America, and do a 3 to 5 minute speech on what Boys and Girls Club means to them.
Wow.
And I just admire that they can do that. I mean, I probably couldn't have done that as
I know I couldn't at 18, 16,
high school,
14,
college,
18.
or in my 50s.
Probably, yeah.
And it is heartwarming to hear their stories because they're all a little unique. And usually there's not a dry eye in the...
I bet.
So this year, our Regional Youth of the Year, not to talk a lot about that program, but our Regional Youth of the Year is from Georgia. So the 5 Regional Youth of the Year go to Washington, D.C.
Great.
And actually, they get up, there's a congressional breakfast. So they go through the same interview process, but they also have to get up during a congressional breakfast, and it's named at a congressional event.
Yeah.
But for the last, I think it's like 47, 48 years, they've always had the opportunity to have a one-on-one with the president.
No. Oh, come on.
Yes.
The regional one or the national?
National.
Yeah.
Well, no,
sure.
the 5 regionals.
The 5 regionals.
The 5 regionals, when they're in Washington, D.C., go in and meet with the president.
And then there is a national one,
yes.
Nancy?
And he's from the Midwest this year, but last year, 2005, the Southeast one.
Is that right?
The gentleman was from Biloxi, Mississippi.
Great.
And he did a wonderful job, because of course there's a little competition. You know, you want everybody, and if you have, when you get to that stage, anybody could win.
We like that as well. What can we do to help try to make sure that our boys and girls here, and have these principally been boys? What about that ratio of boy to girl there?
That's a good question. In 1990, because for years it was Boys Clubs of America, and in 1990 we changed the name officially to Boys and Girls Clubs of America.
Good, yes.
And a lot of our most of our clubs were serving girls, but we just hadn't changed the name.
Right.
You know, it's pretty equal right now, because I was looking at the
55,
the statistics.
45%.
Right.
Yeah, I think I saw that.
So and we have good programs for both groups. We have a lot of programs where the girls are separate as far as teenagers, talking about how to prevent pregnancy, how to not to get involved with alcohol, gangs. So we have a lot of good gang prevention programs that the boys go to, and then the girls, because that's a growing problem. I know it's a growing problem in every state. So it's very varied for the program, but it is probably going to be, eventually will be 50-50 boys and girls. So.
Maybe the girls will take over. It should be the girls and boys clubs. That's right, yeah.
Well, and actually...
as the father of a daughter, we want to make the opportunity for girls to get out there. And, you know, we think about so many activities, Nancy, and for you, seeing so many varied programs in communities, are there programs that really stick out in your mind? You talked about the 50 programs, are the ones, we just got a couple of minutes for viewers that may connect with them. What are some examples of some of the programs, whether after school or otherwise, working in schools, working in public housing? What are some that stick out in your mind, just to name a few of the 50?
And I don't know if I mentioned this earlier, so I'll just say when you said, how can we help about Youth of the Year? If you can have, I mean, those Youth of the Year at the clubs are willing to come on your program, talk about their experience.
We'd like to have some young teenagers who can really extrapolate for 25 minutes. That'd be great.
And, you know, Reader's Digest has been a sponsor of Boys and Girls Club for years, 50 years. So they
Right.
help provide scholarships. So we're also looking for additional scholarship because I know the gentleman from Hemingway, South Carolina, is going off to Clemson. Actually, he's already there already. So it's got a variety of from Hemingway plus from the city of Hemingway.
Sure.
But the programs are, for instance, the arts. Sometimes you say that person contributes to the arts. Well, if you get that individual into a Boys and Girls Club, you can see what the arts programs that they can range from small arts and crafts to significant. We always do a national arts competition or a national photography competition. So, and a lot of our clubs do a good job of putting that artwork on. You know, maybe it might be City Hall, it might be a recreation center like this, so that people can see what the kids are working on. So, and then you know, we do need coaches. A lot of our clubs have football leagues, basketball leagues, soccer leagues. So, you know, soccer's probably a growing area that way. So we do need coaches and volunteers. Some of those are paid positions, some of them are not.
That's wonderful. Nancy, thanks so much for being with us this morning. I'm sorry we run out of time.
Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
In town last week.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Stay tuned to more Carolina People with Nancy Frost coming up next.